Edgar Cayce discovered that most people are spiritually sleepwalking through life because they dismiss the 7 most powerful dream types that could unlock psychic abilities, heal past life trauma, and reveal their soul's true purpose. Before you click away, let me ask you this. Have you ever woken up from a dream so vivid, so real, that it stayed with you for days? That wasn't just your imagination running wild. According to Cayce's 14,000 documented readings, that was your soul trying to communicate something absolutely crucial about your spiritual journey. If you're ready to unlock the hidden messages your dreams have been desperately trying to deliver, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because what I'm about to share comes directly from the ARE archives in Virginia Beach, where Cayce's most profound revelations about consciousness are preserved. Here's what's going to blow your mind. In reading 294:15, Cayce revealed that dreams are actually windows into the Akashic records themselves. But wait, there's something even more incredible. In 3 minutes, I'll show you the specific reading that made even Cayce's stenographer Gladys Davis stop typing in absolute shock when she heard what was being revealed about prophetic dreams. Let me start with something that happened in 1923 in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, where Cayce was living at the time. A woman named Sarah Mitchell came to him completely desperate. She'd been having the same recurring dream for 6 months, and it was driving her to the edge of a nervous breakdown. Every single night she would dream of a massive flood destroying her hometown, with people screaming and calling her name from the rushing waters. Most people would have dismissed this as anxiety or trauma, but here's where Cayce's genius revealed itself. In reading 136:24, he didn't just interpret her dream, he revealed something that changed everything we thought we knew about the prophetic nature of our sleeping consciousness. The entity sees through the veil of time, Cayce said in trance, for dreams are the meeting place between the finite mind and the infinite soul. Sarah's dream wasn't about a literal flood. It was about a spiritual flood of consciousness that was coming to her community, and she was being prepared to be a beacon of light during massive spiritual transformation. But wait, here's what gets absolutely incredible. 6 months later, Sarah's hometown experienced something unprecedented, a massive spiritual revival that swept through the entire region, with people desperately seeking spiritual guidance and calling out for help in their spiritual awakening. Sarah, having understood her dream's true meaning through Cayce's reading, became one of the most sought-after spiritual counselors in Kentucky. This brings us to the first type of dream that 99% of people completely ignore, the prophetic dream. But here's what Cayce revealed that will shock you. These dreams aren't predicting the future, they're preparing your soul for your spiritual mission on Earth. Have you ever had a dream that felt more real than waking life? Drop a comment below and tell me about it, because what I'm about to reveal next will completely change how you understand what was really happening to your consciousness. In reading 294:136, Cayce explained that prophetic dreams occur when your soul temporarily separates from your physical body and accesses what he called the eternal now within the Akashic records. Think of it like this. Imagine your soul is a radio, and during certain dream states it tunes into the cosmic frequency where all information about past, present, and future exists simultaneously. But here's the pattern interrupt that changes everything. Cayce discovered that not everyone receives prophetic dreams randomly. In reading 57511, he revealed the specific spiritual conditions that must be present for your soul to access this level of cosmic consciousness. The second type of dream that most people dismiss as meaningless is what Cayce called the karmic dream. Now, before you think this is some abstract metaphysical concept, let me tell you about James Hartford, a businessman from Norfolk, Virginia, who came to Cayce in 1932. James had been having disturbing dreams about being a soldier in what seemed like the Civil War, dying on a battlefield while calling out for someone named Mary Elizabeth. These dreams were so intense that he would wake up with actual physical pain in his chest where he dreamed he'd been shot. Here's what Cayce revealed in reading 1135-2 that absolutely stunned everyone in the room. James was indeed experiencing memories from a past incarnation as a Confederate soldier, but the real revelation was why his soul was showing him these memories now. The entity carries still the fear of commitment in relationships, Cayce explained, for in that experience, the entity left behind a beloved who died of heartbreak while waiting for his return from war. The dreams weren't just memories. They were his soul's way of showing him why he sabotaged every meaningful relationship in his current life. But wait, here's where it gets mind-blowing. Cayce told James that Mary Elizabeth had reincarnated and was actually living in Virginia Beach at that very moment, working as a nurse at the local hospital. 3 months later, James met a nurse named Mary Beth, who felt instantly familiar. They married within a year and had one of the most harmonious marriages anyone had ever witnessed. This changes everything about how we understand the purpose of disturbing or recurring dreams. They're not psychological problems, they're spiritual solutions trying to break through into your conscious awareness. The third type of dream that 99% ignore is the healing dream. Now, this is where Cayce's readings become absolutely revolutionary for anyone dealing with health challenges. In 1938, a woman named Dorothy Fleming from Richmond, Virginia, came to Cayce with a condition that had baffled every doctor on the East Coast. She had developed a mysterious paralysis in her left arm that no medical test could explain. But here's what was really remarkable. Dorothy had been having vivid dreams about herbs and plants for months before her condition appeared. In reading 1179-5, Cayce revealed something that completely revolutionized our understanding of how the body communicates with the soul through dreams. The body consciousness, he explained, attempts to communicate through the dream state those elements and treatments necessary for healing, but the conscious mind dismisses these as mere fantasies. Dorothy's dreams about specific herbs weren't random. Her higher consciousness was literally prescribing the exact botanical remedies her body needed for healing. Following the herbal treatments revealed in her dreams, combined with Cayce's additional guidance, Dorothy's paralysis completely disappeared within 6 weeks. But here's what will absolutely amaze you. In reading 294-141, Cayce revealed that every person has the capability to receive healing information through their dreams, but most people's minds are too cluttered with daily concerns to recognize these divine prescriptions. The fourth type of dream connects directly to what Cayce called soul communication dreams. These are dreams where you receive visits from loved ones who have passed into the spirit realm, and I'm about to show you a documented case that will prove these aren't just wishful thinking or grief fantasies. In 1941, Margaret Thompson from Virginia Beach lost her husband suddenly in a car accident. She was devastated, but 3 weeks after his death, she began having incredibly vivid dreams where her husband would appear and give her specific information about their financial affairs, including the location of important documents she couldn't find. Here's what's absolutely incredible. Every single piece of information her husband gave her in these dreams proved to be completely accurate. But the most shocking revelation came in reading 416-18, where Cayce explained exactly how communication between the living and the deceased actually works through the dream state. The soul, Cayce revealed, is not bound by physical death, and love creates a vibrational bridge that allows continued communication through the subconscious mind during sleep. Margaret's husband wasn't just a memory or projection. His soul was actually using her dream state to communicate vital information that would help her navigate life after his passing. But wait, there's something even more profound that Cayce revealed about these soul communication dreams that will change how you understand death itself. The fifth type of dream that people dismiss is what Cayce called the Akashic record dream. These are dreams where you access information about ancient civilizations, future technologies, or universal truths that your conscious mind has never encountered. Let me tell you about Robert Hayes, an engineer from Newport News who came to Cayce in 1934 with dreams that were driving him nearly insane. Robert kept dreaming about complex mechanical devices that seemed impossibly advanced for the 1930s. These weren't vague fantasies. These were detailed blueprints for machines that wouldn't be invented for decades. In reading 2072-10, Cayce revealed something that completely revolutionized our understanding of how human consciousness can access universal knowledge. The entity, he explained, is touching upon that Akashic record wherein all knowledge, all discovery, All invention that has been or may be is stored in the etheric realms of consciousness. Here's the mind-blowing part. Robert's dreams were showing him technologies from both ancient Atlantis and future Earth civilizations. Cayce explained that Robert's soul had been an inventor in Atlantis and was now being prepared to bring forth certain technologies that humanity would need in the coming age. Following Cayce's guidance, Robert developed 3 patents based on his dreams that became foundational technologies in early aviation systems. His dream-inspired inventions are still being used in modified forms in aerospace engineering today. The 6th type of dream that 99% of people completely misunderstand is the initiation dream. These are dreams where you undergo spiritual tests, meet spiritual teachers, or experience symbolic death and rebirth. Most people wake up from these dreams feeling confused or frightened, but Cayce revealed these are actually graduation ceremonies for your soul's advancement. In 1936, Elizabeth Morrison from Norfolk began having terrifying dreams where she would find herself in ancient temples being tested by robed figures who would present her with difficult moral choices. She would often wake up exhausted, as if she had been working all night instead of sleeping. Reading 34122 revealed something absolutely extraordinary about what was really happening to Elizabeth during these dreams. The entity, Cayce explained, is being prepared for service as a spiritual teacher, and these experiences in the temple are actual initiations taking place on the soul level while the body rests. Elizabeth was literally attending a spiritual university in her dreams, receiving advanced training in metaphysical principles that would prepare her for her life's work. Within 2 years, she had become one of the most sought-after spiritual counselors on the East Coast, helping hundreds of people understand their own psychic experiences and spiritual awakening. But here's what Cayce revealed that will absolutely transform how you understand your own intense or unusual dreams. These initiation experiences aren't random. They only occur when your soul has reached a specific level of spiritual development and is ready for greater service to humanity. The 7th and most powerful type of dream that people ignore is what Cayce called the life purpose dream. These dreams show you symbolic representations of your soul's mission in this lifetime, often appearing during times of major life transitions or spiritual crisis. Let me share the most incredible documented case from the ARE archives. In 1940, Thomas Bradley, a struggling salesman from Richmond, came to Cayce completely lost about his life direction. He'd been having recurring dreams about standing in front of massive audiences, speaking with tremendous authority about spiritual matters. But in his waking life, he was terrified of public speaking and had no knowledge of metaphysics. Reading 987-2 revealed something that changed Thomas's entire existence. Cayce explained that Thomas's soul had been a spiritual teacher in multiple previous incarnations, including as a priest in ancient Egypt and a philosopher in Greece. The dreams weren't showing him fantasies, they were showing him his soul's true calling that had been suppressed by fear and social conditioning. The entity has come into this experience, Cayce revealed, to reawaken the sleeping gifts of spiritual teaching that lie dormant within. The dreams are the soul's attempt to break through the barriers of conscious doubt and fear. Following Cayce's guidance, Thomas began studying metaphysical principles and slowly overcame his fear of speaking. Within 5 years, he had become one of the most influential spiritual teachers in the Southeast, inspiring thousands of people to explore their own psychic abilities and spiritual potential. But here's the most incredible revelation from Cayce's readings about life purpose dreams. They always appear when your soul knows you're ready to step into your true mission, even when your conscious mind feels completely unprepared. Now here's what ties all 7 types of dreams together in a way that will revolutionize your spiritual journey. In reading 5754-3, Cayce revealed that these dreams aren't separate phenomena. They're all part of what he called the soul's curriculum for spiritual advancement in this lifetime. Every prophetic dream prepares you for your spiritual service. Every karmic dream heals past life wounds that block your current growth. Every healing dream teaches you to work with divine energy. Every soul communication dream proves the continuity of consciousness beyond physical death. Every Akashic record dream connects you to universal wisdom. Every initiation dream advances your spiritual development. and every life purpose dream calls you to fulfill your soul's mission. But wait, here's the revelation that changes everything. Cayce discovered that most people only remember and work with about 3% of their actual dream experiences. In reading 294-128, he revealed specific techniques for dramatically increasing dream recall and interpretation that can unlock the full power of your sleeping consciousness. The first technique Cayce recommended was keeping a dream journal beside your bed and writing down every fragment you remember immediately upon waking, no matter how strange or meaningless it seems. He explained that the act of recording dreams signals to your subconscious that you're ready to receive more detailed spiritual information through your sleep state. The second technique was what he called dream incubation, where you would ask specific questions before sleep and request guidance through your dreams. In reading 294-153, a woman asked Cayce how to receive clearer spiritual guidance through dreams, and his response was revolutionary. Set the mental and spiritual attitude before sleep that the soul may commune with the divine forces, and ask specifically for that guidance needed for the soul's development. But here's where Cayce's dream teachings become absolutely practical for modern spiritual seekers. He revealed that certain physical conditions dramatically improve dream reception and recall. Sleeping with your head pointing north aligns your body's magnetic field with Earth's natural energy flow, enhancing psychic receptivity during sleep. He also recommended avoiding heavy meals within 3 hours of bedtime, as physical digestion interferes with the soul's ability to separate from the body during dream states. And here's something that will surprise you. Cayce said that sleeping on your back with arms uncrossed creates the optimal physical position for soul travel and spiritual communication through dreams. The most powerful technique Cayce shared was the practice of meditation before sleep. In reading 281-13, he explained that 15 minutes of meditation before bed creates a bridge of consciousness between your waking awareness and your sleeping soul experiences, allowing for much clearer dream recall and interpretation. But here's what makes Cayce's approach to dreams absolutely unique. He never interpreted dreams as purely symbolic. In reading after reading, he revealed that dream experiences are actual soul activities taking place on spiritual planes of existence, while the physical body rests and regenerates. This means that when you dream of flying, your soul is actually experiencing freedom from physical limitations. When you dream of meeting deceased loved ones, you're actually having real encounters on the spirit plane. When you dream of ancient places or future scenarios, your soul is actually accessing those time periods through the eternal consciousness of the Akashic records. The implications of this understanding are absolutely staggering for anyone serious about spiritual development. Your dreams aren't just psychological phenomena, they're spiritual adventures that continue your soul's education and growth even while your body sleeps. In reading 57541, Cayce made a statement that should revolutionize how every spiritual seeker approaches their sleep. In sleep, the soul reviews the day's activities, communes with the divine source, receives guidance for future challenges, and continues its eternal journey toward spiritual perfection. This means that every night of your life, you have the opportunity for direct spiritual instruction, healing, prophecy, and communion with higher consciousness. The question isn't whether you're receiving this spiritual education through your dreams. The question is whether you're paying attention and applying what you're learning. Here's a documented case that proves the practical power of working with dreams according to Cayce's teachings. Mary Patterson from Virginia Beach began recording her dreams and following Cayce's techniques in 1943. Within 6 months, she had received dream guidance that led her to discover her husband's undisclosed gambling debts before they destroyed their family finances, dream healing instructions that cured her daughter's chronic asthma, and prophetic dreams that guided her family away from Norfolk 2 weeks before a major hurricane devastated the area. But the most incredible result was a life purpose dream that showed Mary working with children who had developmental challenges. Following this guidance, she became a pioneer in special education, developing teaching methods that are still used today in schools across America. The key to Mary's success wasn't just remembering her dreams, it was trusting the spiritual intelligence that was communicating through them and having the courage to act on the guidance she received. This brings us to the most important question. How do you know when a dream contains genuine spiritual guidance versus random mental processing? Cayce provided clear criteria in Reading 294-159. First, spiritually significant dreams always feel different from ordinary dreams. They have a quality of heightened reality, vivid colors, and emotional intensity that stays with you long after waking. Second, spiritual dreams always provide practical guidance or emotional healing. They're never just entertainment or random scenarios. Third, spiritual dreams often repeat in some form until you understand and act upon their message. But here's the most reliable test Cayce gave for identifying spiritually significant dreams. They always align with love, service to others, and spiritual growth. Any dream guidance that would lead you towards selfishness, harm to others, or spiritual regression is not coming from your higher consciousness. The final revelation I want to share comes from Reading 294-185, where Cayce was asked about the ultimate purpose of working with dreams for spiritual development. His answer should inspire every person seeking deeper connection with their soul's purpose. Dreams, Cayce explained, are the natural language of the soul. When the entity learns to listen to this divine communication, the soul becomes conscious of its eternal nature and begins to live from spiritual principles rather than material concerns. This is the beginning of true spiritual awakening. What Cayce revealed about dreams represents one of the most practical and accessible paths to spiritual transformation available to every human being. You don't need special psychic abilities, years of meditation training, or expensive spiritual teachers. Every night, when you close your eyes and surrender to sleep, you have access to the same divine wisdom that guided prophets, mystics, and spiritual teachers throughout history. The 7 types of dreams Cayce identified aren't just interesting metaphysical concepts. They're actual spiritual technologies that can revolutionize every aspect of your life. Your prophetic dreams can prepare you for your spiritual mission. Your karmic dreams can heal past life wounds that sabotage your current relationships and success. Your healing dreams can provide divine prescriptions for physical, emotional, and spiritual wellness. Your soul communication dreams can maintain loving connections with those who have passed into spirit. Your Akashic record dreams can provide access to universal knowledge and wisdom. Your initiation dreams can advance your spiritual development and prepare you for greater service. And your life purpose dreams can reveal your soul's true calling and guide you toward fulfilling your highest potential. But remember, this spiritual treasure chest is only valuable if you're willing to pay attention, record your experiences, and courageously act upon the guidance you receive. The same divine intelligence that spoke through Edgar Cayce is available to communicate with your soul through your dreams every single night. If this information has opened your mind to the incredible spiritual potential of your dream life, please like this video, share it with others who are ready for spiritual awakening, and subscribe to this channel for more revelations from Edgar Cayce's profound teachings. Your dreams are calling you toward your highest spiritual destiny. The question is, are you ready to listen? According to Edgar Cayce, every human being walks through life attached by a mysterious and sacred bond, the silver cord. Invisible to the eye, yet powerful enough to determine the moment when the soul leaves the body, this cord is described in the Bible and confirmed in Cayce's readings as the very thread that sustains our earthly existence. Without it, breath ceases, the body falls, and the spirit begins its journey to another dimension. Think about this for a moment. If your soul is held here by a divine cord, what does that say about the purpose of your life, your faith, and your destiny beyond death? This is not a metaphor. It is a revelation that challenges both science and religion, and it forces us to look at life not as random but as divinely ordered. I want you to stay with me until the end of this video, because the details Cayce uncovered about the silver cord may completely change how you understand your existence. And I want you to interact. Write in the comments what you believe about the soul's bond with the body, and I will personally mark every comment with a heart to show that your voice is valued here. Edgar Cayce spoke of mysteries that connect the physical and the spiritual in ways most people never dare to imagine. Among his many revelations, one stands out as both haunting and deeply comforting: the existence of the silver cord. He described it as the vital link that keeps the soul tied to the body, a cord of light and energy that remains intact as long as our earthly journey continues. When this cord is broken, the body ceases to function, and the soul is released to begin its passage into the afterlife. This was not speculation or fantasy, but part of his documented readings, where he consistently affirmed that life is not confined to flesh and bones, but is held together by spiritual laws far greater than what science can measure. The Bible itself, in the book of Ecclesiastes, mentions this mysterious cord, declaring that when the silver cord is loosed, the spirit returns to God who gave it. Cayce's insights did not invent this idea, but expanded on it, showing how it works as a divine bridge between two worlds. Think about what this means for a moment. Every breath you take, every heartbeat, every second of consciousness is not just a function of biology, but of spirit. The silver cord is the divine tether that ensures your soul can inhabit your body, giving you the chance to grow, learn, love, and evolve in this physical dimension. Cayce explained that this connection reflects God's mercy, because the human soul is eternal, and without this binding cord, we would drift away from the lessons of earthly life before our time. He described how, in moments close to death, some people might feel or even perceive this cord, often during near-death experiences, where the sensation of floating above the body is accompanied by a line of light, still holding the spirit to the flesh. Such moments are not delusions of the brain, but glimpses of spiritual reality, where the soul almost departs yet remains connected because the cord has not yet been severed. Cayce emphasized that this knowledge should not fill us with fear, but with reverence. If the silver cord truly exists, and his readings affirm that it does, then life is much more than the years we count. It is a sacred opportunity, a temporary stage in which our soul is tested, refined, and prepared for higher dimensions. The cord is a reminder that the body is not the true self, but a vessel sustained by divine design. Imagine the implications of this. When you sleep at night and dream, Cayce explained that your spirit can partially leave the body, traveling through planes of consciousness, yet it always remains connected by this cord, ensuring your return upon awakening. That explains why dreams can sometimes feel more real than waking life, because your soul has truly touched another realm. But the cord pulls you back to fulfill your duties here. The mystery deepens when we consider death itself. According to Cayce, death is not an end, but the moment when the silver cord is finally released. He described it as a peaceful separation, though it can be resisted if a soul clings to the material world. This is why he urged people to live with faith, kindness, and spiritual awareness, so that when the time comes, the release of the cord is experienced not as terror, but as liberation. He warned that those who live in selfishness, cruelty, or denial of the spirit may face confusion as the cord loosens, struggling to accept the passage. But those who prepare their souls with prayer, meditation, and service will find that the breaking of the cord is like stepping into a greater light, embraced by divine love. For Cayce, the silver cord symbolized the continuity of consciousness. He explained that even while alive, we are never fully bound to this earth. Part of us is always connected to God, and the cord is that lifeline. In his readings, he compared it to an umbilical cord for the soul, drawing spiritual nourishment from the divine source. Just as a child in the womb cannot survive without the cord that ties it to the mother, so too the human soul cannot live in the body without the silver cord. And when the time of birth into the spiritual world arrives, that cord is severed, allowing the soul to live in a higher dimension. This profound analogy shows that death, far from being destruction, is another kind of birth, the moment when we are finally delivered into eternity. Cayce's descriptions resonate deeply with ancient traditions as well. In various mystical teachings, the idea of a luminous cord has appeared, sometimes called the thread of life, sometimes the bridge of light. What made Cayce unique is that his accounts came not from philosophy or speculation, but from trance states in which he provided practical and spiritual guidance to people who sought his help. He never used these revelations to inspire fear, but to encourage people to live with greater purpose. The silver cord to him was proof that our lives are safeguarded by God, and that our souls are meant for more than just survival. He urged his followers to understand this truth, so they would live each day with the awareness that their actions and choices echo into eternity. Cayce also connected the silver cord to the process of out-of-body experiences, which many people reported long before modern science began to study them. He explained that during deep meditation or altered states of consciousness, the soul can rise above the body and explore higher planes, but it always remains attached through the cord until the physical life is complete. Some people who went through near-death experiences described exactly what Cayce had spoken of decades earlier. They saw themselves floating above hospital beds, watching doctors and loved ones, while a shimmering cord of light still tied them back to their body. These testimonies, though dismissed by skeptics, align with the descriptions found in his readings, reinforcing the idea that the silver cord is not myth, but spiritual reality. In these states, Cayce reminded, the cord acts as both a protection and a boundary, allowing us glimpses of eternity while still calling us back to fulfill our earthly mission. He went further by linking this mysterious bond to the universal law of cause and effect. In his readings, Cayce explained that how we live directly affects how the cord is finally released. A life lived with harmony, forgiveness, and devotion to God allows the transition to be smooth and filled with light. But a life of bitterness or hatred can weigh the soul down, creating confusion when the bond is broken. For Cayce, this was not punishment, but the natural result of spiritual laws. Just as neglecting the body brings illness, neglecting the soul brings spiritual imbalance, and that imbalance can be felt in the moment when the cord is cut. This perspective urged people to take responsibility not only for their physical health, but also for their spiritual well-being, because both are tied together through this divine link. Cayce often pointed to scripture to affirm his revelations. He highlighted Ecclesiastes 12, where the loosening of the silver cord is directly connected to the return of the spirit to God. He showed how ancient wisdom had already recognized the existence of this link and how modern life had forgotten it. By bringing attention back to this truth, Cayce's mission was to awaken faith in people's hearts. He made it clear that we are not wandering accidents of biology, but eternal beings temporarily housed in flesh, tied to heaven through this luminous cord. He urged his followers to see every act of kindness, every prayer and every choice, as part of preparing for the inevitable moment when the cord would be released. In doing so, he removed the fear of death and replaced it with a sense of purpose and hope. Another dimension of Cayce's explanation lies in how the silver cord relates to dreams. He described dreams not as random images of the mind, but as real experiences of the soul on other planes of existence. The cord ensures that even as your spirit roams in dreams, learning, healing, and sometimes receiving divine messages, it will return to the body upon awakening. This is why Cayce encouraged people to record and study their dreams, because he believed they held guidance from the higher realms. In his view, the silver cord was the assurance that the journey in dreams was safe, that God had provided a tether, so that no matter how far the soul traveled in the night, it could always come back to complete its purpose in the physical world. This made dreams not just psychological events, but spiritual lessons guarded by a divine thread. This understanding of the cord also sheds light on why sudden accidents, traumas, or illnesses can feel like moments when the soul nearly departs. Cayce explained that in these moments the cord is stretched, the spirit partially leaves, and people may see visions, lights, or even deceased loved ones. But unless the cord is broken, they return. Countless testimonies of people who came back from the brink of death confirm this description. They speak of tunnels, lights, or hovering above their bodies, yet always with the sensation of being pulled back, as if by something beyond their control. Cayce's readings affirm that what pulls them back is the silver cord, the final proof that their time has not yet come. Only when God allows the cord to break does the soul truly depart into the next world. For Cayce, the silver cord was not merely a mystical curiosity, it was a reminder of responsibility. If the cord ties you here, then your time on earth is not accidental. You are here for a reason, and that reason is tied to your growth, your service to others, and your relationship with the divine. He taught that we should never take life for granted, because every day, every moment, we are connected to eternity by this fragile yet unbreakable cord. The awareness of this truth should inspire gratitude, humility, and the courage to live in alignment with God's will. To know that your life is literally hanging by a divine thread is not meant to frighten but to awaken. It is a call to live more fully, more spiritually, more faithfully. Cayce also revealed that the silver cord plays a role in how souls transition between incarnations. He explained that reincarnation is not simply a process of entering and leaving the physical, but a continuation of learning. The cord represents the law of connection, a spiritual principle that ensures no life is wasted. When the cord is severed, the soul is free to return to its true home in spirit, where it reviews its deeds, its failures, and its growth. From there, guided by divine forces, it chooses or is guided to another body, another opportunity to evolve. This cycle reflects not randomness but order, the same order symbolized by the silver cord itself. The cord shows that nothing in creation is without design, that God's will governs the beginning and the end of every life. For Cayce, the presence of the cord was proof of divine intelligence, a reminder that death itself is part of a larger plan of renewal. In describing the silver cord, Cayce emphasized that it is not visible in the ordinary sense. It cannot be measured with instruments, yet it can be perceived spiritually. Some people with heightened sensitivity, he explained, could see or sense this luminous thread, especially around those who are close to passing. It is not a physical cord, but an energy, a vibration that ties the subtle body to the physical. This idea aligns with his broader teachings on the human aura, where he described fields of energy surrounding every person, reflecting their spiritual state. The cord then is the central channel, the vital connection among these energies. It acts as the highway for life force, the divine spark flowing into the body. Without it, the body is like a lamp without electricity, unable to shine, unable to live. What makes Cayce's words so powerful is how they merge faith with experience. He never asked people to believe blindly. Instead, he offered insights that could be tested through observation, prayer, and inner reflection. Many who listened to his readings found confirmation in their own lives, dreams that felt too real, visions at the bedside of loved ones, near-death experiences that mirrored his descriptions. The silver cord became not just a mystical teaching, but a lens to understand human existence. By seeing life as held by this divine tether, people began to value each moment differently. Every relationship, every act of love, every challenge became part of preparing the soul for that final release. The cord turned death into a passage, not an end, and reminded believers that God's presence is continuous, even when unseen. Another fascinating point in Cayce's readings was the way the cord is linked to the mind. He explained that thoughts are not confined to the brain, but extend into the spiritual body. Through the cord, impressions, inspirations, and even divine guidance can reach us. This is why prayer and meditation, according to Cayce, have such a profound effect not only on the mind but on the body itself. When a person prays sincerely, the cord is like an open channel to the divine, strengthening the soul's connection with God. When a person fills their mind with bitterness or despair, that same channel is clouded and the cord feels strained. This does not mean it will break prematurely, but it reveals how our state of consciousness directly interacts with our life force. In this way, the cord is both a safeguard and a mirror of the soul's condition. Cayce encouraged his followers to use this knowledge not just as a source of curiosity, but as a guide for living. He often said that understanding spiritual truths is useless unless they are applied. To know that the silver cord ties your soul to your body is to know that life is sacred, fragile, and divinely protected. It should lead you to live with greater kindness, to forgive more easily, to let go of resentment, and to embrace your purpose with courage. Because one day when the cord is released, the only thing that matters is what you have done with the time God has given you. Cayce's teachings on the silver cord remind us that our choices are eternal. They echo beyond the grave, shaping not only our destiny after death, but the experiences we will carry into future lives. Cayce's explanation of the silver cord also gives new meaning to the way we view suffering and illness. He pointed out that while the body may weaken, the cord remains strong until the appointed time of release. This means that no illness, no accident, no suffering has the final word unless God allows the cord to break. For those who are ill, this teaching offers comfort. Life does not end in chaos but in divine order. The moment of passing is not random, but part of a sacred design. He described how, even in the hardest moments of pain, the soul remains safe, protected by this divine tether, until its true release comes. This changes the way we view both life and death. Rather than fear, there is trust. Rather than despair, there is hope. To know that your soul is tied by the silver cord is to know that nothing happens outside of God's will. At the same time, Cayce warned that human choices influence how peacefully this transition occurs. He taught that living in harmony with spiritual principles, such as love, service, forgiveness, and prayer, makes the breaking of the cord gentle, like falling asleep and awakening in another room filled with light. But those who harden their hearts, who deny the Spirit, who live only for selfish gain, may experience confusion, fear, and resistance when the cord is finally released. This is not punishment from God, Cayce insisted, but the natural result of how the soul has aligned itself during life. Just as the cord binds us to the body, our choices bind us to certain states of consciousness. When the separation comes, we enter the world our choices have prepared for us. In this way, the silver cord is not only about death, but about life. It reminds us that our daily actions are not trivial. Every word, every thought, every deed strengthens or weakens our readiness for the inevitable moment of release. Cayce urged his listeners to live as if every day were preparation, not in fear of death, but in anticipation of greater life. To know that your soul is tied by such a cord is to realize that you are never separate from the divine, that even now, as you breathe and think and move, you are connected to eternity. This awareness can transform how you live, how you treat others, and how you approach challenges. It gives every moment a weight that is both sobering and inspiring. The testimony of those who stood at the edge of death and returned often echoed Cayce's insights. Many described feeling a sudden lifting, a sensation of being outside their bodies, looking down at themselves, while still feeling tied by something luminous. They spoke of hearing voices, seeing loved ones, or moving toward a light, yet being pulled back. When Cayce spoke of these experiences decades earlier, science dismissed them as hallucinations. But today, with countless accounts from around the world, many begin to see that what he described was true. The silver cord is the line between two dimensions, the final proof that our existence is not confined to flesh. When it is intact, we remain. When it is broken, we pass on. For Cayce, the silver cord was also a symbol of God's mercy. He explained that the human soul is powerful beyond measure, but in the physical world, it is limited by design. The cord ensures that while we experience life in this dimension, we do not lose ourselves entirely in the material. It is both a lifeline and a boundary, keeping us anchored so that we can complete the lessons of this earthly school. Without the cord, the soul would drift too easily into other realms, neglecting the responsibilities of human existence. With it, we are forced to face the trials, the joys, and the duties that shape our growth. Cayce said this was God's way of ensuring balance, of keeping humanity grounded, while still allowing glimpses of eternity through prayer, meditation, and dreams. He also explained that the moment of death, when the silver cord breaks, is not chaotic, but profoundly organized. According to Cayce, spiritual helpers, guides, and loved ones often appear to assist the departing soul. They do not cut the cord prematurely, but they welcome the soul once it is released. This means that no one truly dies alone. Even in the silence of a hospital bed, even in the solitude of a final breath, the soul is met by light and companionship. The breaking of the cord is simply the unlocking of a door, and beyond it stands a reality more vast than anything we can imagine. Cayce wanted people to understand this, so that fear of death would not rule their lives. Instead of fear, there should be faith. Instead of despair, trust in the divine order that governs all existence. Dreams, near-death experiences, ancient scriptures, and Cayce's own readings all converge on this truth. The silver cord is real, and its reality should not only make us reflect on death, but inspire us to live better now. To know that life is literally sustained by a divine thread is to recognize how sacred every action is. It means that forgiving someone today is not just a personal choice, but preparation for eternity. It means that offering kindness, prayer, or love is not wasted but woven into the very fabric of your soul. Every time you align yourself with God's will, you prepare for the moment when the cord is released, ensuring that when it happens, you will step into light rather than darkness, peace rather than confusion. Cayce's teachings challenge us to ask hard questions. How are we living today? Are we preparing our souls for the release of the cord, or are we binding ourselves to fear, anger, and selfishness? If the cord were to break tonight, what state would we carry into eternity? These are not questions meant to scare but to awaken. They remind us that the time we have is precious, that life is a temporary gift, and that eternity awaits. By reflecting on the reality of the silver cord, we come face to face with the urgency of faith, the necessity of love, and the promise of God's eternal presence. Cayce's revelation of the silver cord ultimately leads to one conclusion: life is sacred, and death is not the end. The body may age, it may weaken, but the soul is always connected to God through this divine thread until the moment of release. When that moment comes, it is not a tragedy, but a transition. Cayce described death as a gentle movement of the soul into greater light, the same way a child leaves the womb and enters a wider world. The cord is cut, not by chance, but by divine will, and the soul awakens to a reality more real than anything experienced on earth. This truth removes the fear of death and replaces it with responsibility. How we live, how we love, and how we believe will shape the journey once the cord is released. For those still living, the knowledge of the silver cord should inspire a new way of seeing existence. It should remind us that every breath is borrowed grace, every heartbeat a gift, every day an opportunity to grow. To live aware of this cord is to live aware of eternity. Cayce urged us to use this awareness not to withdraw from life, but to embrace it more fully, to see relationships as eternal bonds, to treat others with compassion, and to cultivate faith in God. Because when the cord is released, only these things, love, faith, kindness, will matter. Wealth, power, status, and pride dissolve. The soul carries only what it has built in spirit. And so the silver cord is both mystery and invitation. It reminds us that we are more than flesh, more than temporary beings. It tells us that we are eternal, tied to God, sustained by His will, and destined to return to Him. Edgar Cayce's words echo across time, calling us to live differently, to live with reverence for the unseen, and to prepare for the moment of release. The question is not if the cord will break, but how we will be when it does. Will we be ready to step into light, or will we cling in fear? The answer depends on how we live now. If this message touched you, I invite you to take one step further. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear your perspective, your faith, your questions, and I will mark every single comment with a heart to show that your voice was heard. Together, we can build a community that seeks truth, that honors God, and that lives every day aware of the sacred cord that ties us to eternity. You wake up exhausted, 8 hours in bed, but you feel like you haven't slept at all. Your body is heavy, your mind foggy, and you wonder why rest doesn't feel restful anymore. What if I told you that according to Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, you're not really resting at all? In fact, every single night your soul leaves your physical body and travels to realms most people never consciously experience. And here's what's fascinating. Cayce didn't just theorize about this, he documented it in thousands of readings, explaining exactly what happens during those mysterious hours of sleep, and why some people wake up feeling drained instead of refreshed. If this resonates with you, drop a comment sharing your own sleep experiences. Have you ever woken up more tired than when you went to bed? I'll mark every comment with a heart because this conversation matters. And if you're ready to explore the mysteries of consciousness with me, hit that subscribe button and let's journey together into the unknown. Edgar Cayce spent over 40 years in a unique trance state, delivering readings that would challenge everything we think we know about sleep, consciousness, and the nature of human existence. Born in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, Cayce discovered his extraordinary ability almost by accident. But what he revealed about the nightly journey of the soul would become some of his most profound and transformative teachings. During one of his most impactful readings from the early 1930s, Cayce was asked a seemingly simple question: what happens to us when we sleep? His answer was anything but simple. According to Cayce, sleep is not merely a physical rest period for the body. It's a spiritual journey. Every night, as your physical body lies still, your soul, your consciousness, your essential self, detaches and travels to other dimensions of reality. This isn't death. It's not astral projection in the mystical sense. It's something far more natural and essential to human existence. Cayce explained that the soul needs to return to its source, to reconnect with the divine energy that sustains all life. Think of it like a phone that needs to be recharged. During the day, you use your spiritual battery navigating the physical world, dealing with stress, emotions, relationships, and countless decisions. By nighttime, that battery is depleted. Sleep provides the opportunity for your soul to literally leave the physical plane and return to what Cayce called the spiritual realms to recharge, to reconnect, and to receive guidance. But here's what Ningam Esperava: not everyone's soul travels the same way during sleep. In his readings, Cayce revealed that the quality of your spiritual journey during sleep depends entirely on your mental and spiritual state when you fall asleep. If you go to bed with anger, fear, resentment, or anxiety weighing on your mind, your soul carries that energy with it. Instead of smoothly transitioning to higher spiritual realms where true rest and rejuvenation occur, your consciousness gets trapped in lower vibrational planes, turbulent dimensions where unresolved emotions create chaotic dream experiences. This is why you can sleep for 8 hours and wake up feeling like you've been in a battle all night, because in a very real sense, you have been. Your soul has been struggling through dense emotional landscapes instead of ascending to the peaceful, healing dimensions where restoration actually happens. One woman came to Cayce during the Great Depression era, exhausted despite sleeping what seemed like adequate hours each night. She described waking up with a sense of dread, as if she'd been working all night long. Through his reading, Cayce revealed something extraordinary. Her soul was indeed working during sleep, but not in the way she needed. She was carrying unresolved grief about her father's passing into her sleep state. Every night, her consciousness would seek him out in the spiritual dimensions, creating exhausting dream experiences that prevented true rest. Cayce's guidance was specific and practical. Before sleep, she needed to release that grief through prayer and meditation, essentially giving permission for her soul to rest rather than search. She needed to trust that her father was exactly where he needed to be, and that she would connect with him when the time was spiritually appropriate. Within weeks of following Cayce's advice, her sleep transformed. She began waking refreshed, energized, and at peace. This reveals something profound about Cayce's understanding of sleep. He didn't see it as passive unconsciousness. He viewed it as active spiritual work. And the quality of that work determined the quality of your physical, mental, and emotional health during waking hours. In another remarkable reading from the early 1940s, Cayce described the actual mechanics of the soul's departure during sleep. He explained that there's a silver cord, an energetic connection that links your physical body to your traveling consciousness. This cord can stretch infinitely across dimensions, always maintaining the vital connection between body and soul. Death occurs only when this cord is severed. Sleep is safe because the cord remains intact, allowing your soul to journey while your physical form continues its biological processes. But Cayce warned about something that modern sleep science is only now beginning to understand: the danger of sudden, violent awakenings. When you're jolted awake abruptly by an alarm clock, a loud noise, or external disturbance, your soul hasn't had time to properly reintegrate with your physical body. You feel disoriented, confused, sometimes even nauseous. That's not just grogginess. According to Cayce, it's the shock of your consciousness being yanked back into physical form before it's ready. He advocated for natural awakening whenever possible, allowing the body and soul to reunite gradually as dawn approaches. This is why you sometimes wake up naturally, just before your alarm goes off. Your soul has completed its spiritual work and is gently returning, sensing the approaching morning. Now let me share something that will change how you think about dreams forever. In multiple readings throughout his career, Cayce explained that dreams are not random neural firings or meaningless subconscious garbage. Dreams are memories of where your soul traveled during sleep. Some dreams feel chaotic and nonsensical because your soul passed through lower vibrational planes, dimensions where unresolved human emotions create unstable landscapes. Other dreams feel profound, peaceful and meaningful because your soul reached higher spiritual realms where wisdom and healing reside. Cayce taught people to pay attention to the emotional quality of their dreams rather than getting lost in bizarre symbolism. A dream that leaves you feeling peaceful and loved indicates your soul reached beneficial spiritual dimensions. A nightmare or anxious dream suggests your consciousness got entangled in lower planes, often because of the mental and emotional state you carried into sleep. This understanding gives us incredible power over our sleep quality. We're not helpless victims of insomnia or restless nights. We have the ability to influence where our soul travels by consciously preparing for sleep. During a session that changed one family's life forever, Cayce gave specific instructions for preparing for sleep. First, review your day without judgment, acknowledging mistakes and successes with equal acceptance. This releases emotional baggage that would otherwise weigh down your soul. Second, practice forgiveness, both of others and yourself. Resentment and guilt are heavy anchors that prevent your consciousness from ascending to healing dimensions. Third, set a spiritual intention for your sleep, essentially programming where you want your soul to go. This could be as simple as saying, "Tonight I seek spiritual guidance," or "I open myself to divine healing." One man in Virginia Beach followed these practices after years of chronic fatigue that doctors couldn't explain. Medical tests showed nothing wrong, yet he was perpetually exhausted. Cayce's reading revealed that his soul was spending every night trapped in what could only be described as spiritual quicksand, unable to rise to restful dimensions because of deep-seated anger toward his business partner. The physical body wasn't diseased. The soul was exhausted from nightly spiritual struggle. Within 1 month of practicing Cayce's sleep preparation techniques, particularly focused forgiveness work, the man's energy returned completely. He reported not only sleeping better, but experiencing vivid, meaningful dreams that felt like actual visits to beautiful, peaceful places. Cayce confirmed in a follow-up reading that the man's soul was now traveling to beneficial spiritual realms, returning each morning truly refreshed. But here's what fascinates me most about Cayce's sleep teachings: the implications for human consciousness itself. If our souls genuinely leave our bodies every night, traveling to spiritual dimensions beyond physical space and time, then we're not really confined to this physical existence at all. We're multidimensional beings, citizens of both physical and spiritual worlds, moving between them every single day of our lives. This explains so many mysteries that conventional science struggles with. Why do people sometimes have dreams about events before they happen? According to Cayce, because in the spiritual realms where souls travel during sleep, time doesn't exist in the linear way we experience it physically. Your soul might glimpse future possibilities during its nightly journey, bringing that information back as precognitive dreams. Why do people separated by thousands of miles sometimes dream about each other on the same night? Because in the spiritual dimensions, distance is irrelevant. Souls that love each other or share deep connections naturally meet during sleep, creating the phenomenon of shared dreams that both people remember upon waking. Cayce documented cases where people received healing during sleep that manifested physically upon waking. A woman with a chronic skin condition that resisted all medical treatment experienced a dream where a being of light touched her affected areas. She woke to find the condition significantly improved. Cayce explained that her soul had accessed healing dimensions during sleep, and the spiritual healing manifested physically because body and soul are intimately connected. This is revolutionary. It means sleep isn't just physical rest, it's spiritual medicine. And we've been treating it so carelessly, filling our minds with television violence, scrolling through anxiety-inducing social media right before bed, carrying our daily stress directly into sleep without any transition or release. No wonder so many people wake up tired, We're sending our souls into the spiritual realms carrying 50 pounds of emotional baggage, wondering why the journey feels exhausting. In his readings, Cayce emphasized that the bedroom environment matters tremendously, not because of feng shui or superstition, but because the energy in your sleeping space influences the initial trajectory of your soul's departure. A bedroom filled with clutter, electronics, or reminders of unfinished work creates spiritual static, making it harder for your consciousness to smoothly transition to beneficial dimensions. He recommended simple, peaceful sleeping spaces, ideally with the head of the bed facing east to align with Earth's magnetic field and spiritual energy flows. He suggested soft natural materials and minimal electronic interference. These weren't arbitrary preferences. Cayce understood that the physical environment affects the energetic environment, which in turn affects the quality of the soul's nightly journey. One of the most practical applications of Cayce's sleep teachings involves understanding sleep cycles. Long before modern sleep science identified REM cycles, Cayce explained that the soul doesn't leave immediately upon falling asleep. There's a gradual disconnection process as the physical body settles into deep rest. This is why the first hour or two of sleep feels deepest and most restorative. Your soul is fully engaged in its spiritual journey during this time. Toward morning, as the body naturally prepares to wake, the soul begins its return journey. This is why dreams are often most vivid and memorable in the early morning hours. Your consciousness is in the process of reintegrating with your physical form, and you're experiencing the final stages of your spiritual journey with greater awareness. Cayce warned against sleep deprivation, calling it not just physical harm, but spiritual starvation. When you consistently shortchange your sleep, you're not giving your soul adequate time to complete its necessary spiritual work. The consequences aren't just physical fatigue. You become spiritually depleted, disconnected from your higher self, unable to access the intuition and guidance that comes from regular soul travel to spiritual dimensions. This explains why sleep deprivation affects mood, decision-making, and emotional regulation so dramatically. It's not just brain chemistry, it's spiritual malnutrition. Your soul hasn't had time to recharge, to receive guidance, to process the spiritual lessons embedded in daily experiences. Durante the war years, Cayce gave readings to soldiers and their families who were experiencing terrible nightmares and disrupted sleep. He explained that the trauma and fear associated with war created particularly dense emotional energy that souls had to navigate during sleep. The nightmares weren't just psychological, they were actual experiences of consciousness struggling through turbulent spiritual planes created by collective human fear and violence. His remedy was always the same: conscious spiritual preparation before sleep, prayer and meditation to elevate consciousness above the dense emotional frequencies, and most importantly, trust in divine protection and guidance. He taught that no soul is ever truly alone during its nightly journey. Spiritual guides, guardian energies, and divine consciousness itself are always available to assist, but only if we consciously invite that assistance. This brings us to perhaps the most profound aspect of Cayce's sleep teachings, the purpose of the soul's nightly journey. It's not random wandering. According to Cayce, during sleep, your soul is attending what he called the temple of learning in the spiritual realms. Here, consciousness receives instruction, guidance, and healing from higher spiritual teachers. The lessons learned during these nightly classes gradually filter into your conscious awareness as intuition, inspiration, sudden insights, and spiritual growth. People who wake up with solutions to problems they couldn't solve the day before aren't just benefiting from subconscious processing. Their souls literally attended spiritual instruction during sleep and brought back the wisdom needed to address their earthly challenges. Artists, inventors, and creative people throughout history have reported receiving their best ideas during sleep or immediately upon waking. Cayce would say their souls accessed dimensions of pure creativity and inspiration during their nightly journey, returning with gifts from the spiritual realms to be manifested in physical form. This means every single person has access to infinite wisdom and guidance, not through complicated rituals or special abilities, but simply through conscious, intentional sleep. The spiritual university is open to everyone, every single night. The question is whether we arrive as prepared students ready to learn, or as scattered, distracted consciousness too caught up in earthly drama to receive the teachings available to us. One of Cayce's most beautiful sleep-related readings came from his work in Virginia Beach, where he had established his hospital and research center. A young child was having terrible nightmares that disrupted the entire household. The parents were exhausted and worried. Through his reading, Cayce revealed that the child's soul was particularly sensitive and was perceiving genuine spiritual disturbances that adults had learned to block out. The nightmares weren't imagination. They were real experiences of a young soul navigating dimensions without adequate spiritual protection. Cayce taught the parents to pray with the child before sleep, not just reciting words, but genuinely surrounding the child's consciousness with protective spiritual energy and loving intention. He also recommended a simple ritual of visualizing white light surrounding the child's body and spirit. Within days, the nightmares stopped completely. The child began sleeping peacefully and even reported happy dreams of playing with other children in beautiful gardens. The parents asked Cayce if these happy dreams were real. His answer changed their understanding of reality itself. He explained that the spiritual dimensions are just as real as the physical world, perhaps more so. The gardens and playmates the child experienced during sleep existed in spiritual reality. The child's soul was genuinely playing and learning in those dimensions, then returning to the physical body refreshed and joyful. This raises an incredible question. What if the spiritual realms we visit during sleep are actually our true home, and physical existence is the temporary journey? Cayce certainly suggested this in many readings, explaining that the soul is eternal and immortal, while the physical body is simply a temporary vehicle for earthly experience. During sleep, we return briefly to our true home, reconnecting with our eternal nature before resuming the earthly journey. If this is true, then fear of sleep, insomnia, and sleep resistance take on new meaning. Perhaps we're afraid to let go because we've forgotten who we really are. We've become so identified with the physical body and personality that releasing into sleep feels like a small death, a loss of control, a vulnerability. Cayce's teachings invite us to remember that sleep is actually a return to safety, to our spiritual home, to dimensions where we're loved, guided, and nurtured. When we approach sleep with this awareness, everything changes. It becomes not something to fear or resist, but something to embrace with gratitude and conscious intention. So what about those mornings when you still wake up tired despite doing everything right? Cayce addressed this too. Sometimes, he explained, the soul's spiritual work is particularly intense. You might be processing major life lessons, receiving important guidance for upcoming challenges, or even assisting other souls in the spiritual dimensions. Yes, according to Cayce, more spiritually advanced souls sometimes serve as helpers to others during sleep, a form of spiritual service that can be energetically demanding. If you wake up tired but peaceful, with a sense that you've done important work even if you don't remember the details, that's often what's happening. Your soul was engaged in meaningful spiritual service, and the fatigue is temporary. Honor it, rest when possible, and trust that the work you did during sleep was necessary and valuable. But if you wake up tired and anxious, drained and heavy, that indicates your soul is still struggling with unresolved emotional or spiritual issues that need conscious attention. This is your spirit's way of sending you a message. Something needs to be addressed, forgiven, released, or healed. Cayce never saw physical symptoms as separate from spiritual causes. Chronic sleep problems, in his view, always pointed to spiritual imbalances that needed attention. The body was communicating what the soul was experiencing. As we approach the end of our journey together through Cayce's sleep teachings, I want you to think about tonight differently. As you prepare for bed, remember that you're not just lying down to rest. You're preparing your soul for an extraordinary journey to dimensions beyond physical comprehension. You're returning temporarily to your spiritual home, where healing, learning, and transformation await. Take a few moments before sleep to consciously release the day. Forgive others and yourself. Set a spiritual intention. Invite divine guidance and protection. Thank your body for carrying you through another day of physical existence. Welcome your soul's upcoming journey with trust and openness. When you wake tomorrow morning, take a moment before jumping into activity. Notice how you feel. If you're refreshed, give thanks for the spiritual nourishment your soul received. If you're tired, ask yourself honestly what emotional or spiritual issues might need your conscious attention. Don't judge yourself. Simply observe with compassion and willingness to grow. Edgar Cayce's legacy lives on through the Association for Research and Enlightenment in Virginia Beach, where tens of thousands of his readings are preserved and studied. But his most accessible legacy is the gift he gave every single person. The understanding that we're spiritual beings having a temporary physical experience, that our souls journey every night to realms beyond imagination, and that sleep itself is sacred, a divine gift that connects us to our eternal nature. You are so much more than you think you are. Your consciousness is not confined to your skull. Your existence doesn't begin at birth or end at death. Every night you prove this by traveling to dimensions that exist beyond time and space, returning each morning with the spiritual nourishment that sustains your earthly journey. Tonight, sleep consciously. Tomorrow, wake aware. And slowly, gradually, you'll remember what Edgar Cayce always knew. You are an eternal soul, and sleep is your nightly journey home. Before we close, I want to hear from you. What's your biggest struggle with sleep? Do you wake up tired or refreshed? Have you ever had a dream that felt more real than waking life? Share your experiences in the comments below. I promise to read every single one and mark them with a heart, because your journey matters. And if these teachings resonated with your soul, hit that subscribe button. We're building a community of conscious seekers, exploring the deepest mysteries of human existence together. The next revelation is just around the corner, and I want you there with me. Until next time, sleep well and journey safely. Edgar Cayce discovered that consciousness doesn't disappear during a coma. It travels to higher spiritual dimensions to receive healing and guidance. In 1932, he told a desperate mother whose son lay in a vegetative state that her child's soul was actively learning in the spiritual realm, and 3 weeks later, the boy awakened with knowledge he'd never possessed before. But here's what's even more shocking about this case and thousands of others like it. What Cayce revealed about comas challenges everything modern medicine believes about consciousness. This isn't just about brain activity or medical explanations. This is about the soul's most profound journey, one that happens when the physical body can no longer interfere with spiritual awakening. By the end of this video, you'll understand why some of the world's most profound spiritual healings happen during comas, and how this knowledge could transform your understanding of consciousness itself. Make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell, because what I'm about to share has been documented in the ARE archives for decades, but most people have never heard these incredible revelations. During his trance state, Cayce accessed what he called the Akashic Records. Imagine a cosmic library containing every soul's journey. In one of his most documented cases, a woman had been in a coma for 6 months. Her family was told to prepare for the worst. But when Cayce was consulted, he said something that shocked everyone in the room. He revealed that her consciousness wasn't trapped or diminished. Instead, it was attending what he called soul school, a spiritual dimension where advanced beings were teaching her about healing, forgiveness, and her life's true purpose. 3 weeks after this reading, she awakened not only physically healed, but with an entirely transformed spiritual understanding. But wait, this gets even more incredible. Cayce explained that during comas, the soul travels through different levels of consciousness. Think of it like spiritual dimensions, each one teaching different lessons. Some souls visit what he called the Hall of Healing, where they receive spiritual treatment that translates into physical recovery. Others journey to the Council of Wisdom, where they review their life choices and receive guidance for their spiritual evolution. In a reading that amazed his stenographer, Cayce described how one coma patient was actually communicating with deceased relatives who were preparing her for a choice, whether to return to physical life or transition to the spiritual realm. The family reported that during her coma, she would smile and move her hands as if having conversations. When she awakened, she described detailed visits with her grandmother, who had passed away years earlier. Here's what changes everything about how we understand consciousness. Cayce revealed that the physical brain is like a radio receiver. When someone is in a coma, that receiver is temporarily turned down or off, but the consciousness, the real you, becomes free to operate at higher spiritual frequencies. This is why some people emerge from comas with expanded psychic abilities, profound spiritual insights, or even speaking languages they never learned. In one verified case from the 1930s, a construction worker fell from scaffolding and remained in a coma for 2 months. According to archived records, Cayce said the man's soul was being prepared for a spiritual mission. When he awakened, he had developed healing abilities and began helping others through prayer and energy work. This wasn't coincidence, it was spiritual preparation. But here's the part that terrified even Cayce's assistants. Not all consciousness journeys during comas are pleasant. Cayce warned that some souls become trapped in lower spiritual dimensions, reliving negative patterns or unresolved conflicts. In these cases, the coma becomes a spiritual battleground where the soul must overcome fear, guilt, or anger before it can return to the body. This explains why some coma patients seem agitated or distressed even while unconscious. Their families often report sensing darkness or heaviness around them. Cayce taught that prayer, meditation, and positive energy from loved ones could literally rescue these souls from lower dimensions and guide them toward healing realms. In documented ARE files, there's a case where a teenage girl remained in a coma after a car accident. Her parents were told she had minimal brain activity, but Cayce revealed her soul was trapped in what he called a gray zone, a spiritual dimension where souls who die suddenly often become confused. Through concentrated prayer and spiritual intervention, her family helped guide her consciousness back to her body after 4 months. Now here's something that will blow your mind about consciousness itself. Cayce explained that every coma serves a spiritual purpose, even when the outcome seems tragic. Sometimes souls choose comas as a way to complete spiritual lessons without the distractions of physical life. Other times, comas allow souls to serve as bridges between dimensions, helping other spirits cross over or sending healing energy to the physical world. He described cases where coma patients were actually working as spiritual healers from their hospital beds. Family members and medical staff would report unusual feelings of peace, sudden healings of minor ailments, or spiritual experiences when visiting these patients. The unconscious person was channeling healing energy from higher dimensions. But wait, there's more to this spiritual mystery. Cayce revealed that some souls use comas to access ancient wisdom. During these deep consciousness journeys, they connect with knowledge from past lives, Atlantis, or even cosmic consciousness itself. When they return to their bodies, they often possess insights about healing, spirituality, or universal truths that transform not only their lives, but the lives of everyone around them. In one of his most incredible readings from the war years, Cayce described a soldier whose soul traveled during his coma to what he called the Akashic Temple, a spiritual dimension where all knowledge exists. When the soldier awakened weeks later, he could accurately describe places he'd never visited and possessed detailed knowledge about ancient healing techniques that he later used to help other veterans. This raises a profound question about what consciousness really is. Modern medicine sees comas as brain dysfunction, but Cayce's readings suggest they're actually consciousness liberation. When the brain's normal filtering stops working, awareness expands beyond physical limitations. This is why some coma survivors report experiencing universal love, cosmic understanding, or direct communication with divine intelligence. Here's what this means for your own spiritual development. You don't need a coma to access these higher dimensions of consciousness. Cayce taught that deep meditation, prayer, and spiritual practices can achieve similar states of expanded awareness. The same spiritual realms visited during comas are available to anyone willing to quiet their physical mind and open to higher guidance. But there's something crucial you need to understand about timing. Cayce warned that not everyone who enters a coma is ready for these spiritual journeys. The soul must have reached a certain level of development to benefit from consciousness expansion. This is why some people emerge from comas spiritually transformed, while others show little change. The depth of spiritual growth depends on the soul's readiness to receive higher teachings. In documented cases from Virginia Beach, Cayce described how some coma patients were actually preparing for important spiritual missions in their remaining lifetime. Their consciousness journeys were like intensive training programs, preparing them to serve as healers, teachers, or bridges between the physical and spiritual worlds. Now here's the most shocking revelation about comas and consciousness. Cayce claimed that during every coma, the soul faces what he called the choice point, a moment where it decides whether to return to physical life or continue into spiritual dimensions. This choice isn't made by the brain or medical conditions. It's made by the soul based on its spiritual mission and lessons still to be learned. This explains why some people recover against all medical odds, while others with better prognoses don't survive. The decision happens at a soul level that transcends physical circumstances. Families who understand this often report feeling guided to support their loved one's highest spiritual good, whether that means recovery or peaceful transition. But here's what makes this knowledge practical for your life today. Understanding consciousness as separate from brain activity changes how we approach our own spiritual development. If awareness can expand beyond physical limitations during comas, imagine what's possible through conscious spiritual practice. Meditation becomes not just relaxation, but actual consciousness expansion. Prayer becomes direct communication with higher dimensions. Cayce taught that every person has the potential to access these spiritual realms while fully awake and healthy. The same divine intelligence that guides souls during comas is available to guide your daily decisions, healing, and spiritual growth. In his later readings, Cayce emphasized that the spiritual awakening happening globally would help more people understand consciousness as multidimensional. What seems mysterious about comas today will become common knowledge as humanity evolves spiritually. This is why these teachings matter now more than ever. We're living in a time of rapid consciousness expansion. More people are experiencing spiritual awakenings, psychic abilities, and direct connection with higher guidance. Understanding how consciousness operates during comas helps us recognize our own spiritual potential and removes fear about the transition between physical and spiritual existence. The souls traveling through spiritual dimensions during comas are showing us what's possible for human consciousness. They're pioneers exploring realms that all of us will eventually experience, either through spiritual practice in this lifetime or during our final transition. Here's your takeaway from Edgar Cayce's incredible revelations. Consciousness is not produced by the brain, it's channeled through it. When physical limitations are removed, awareness expands into spiritual dimensions where healing, wisdom, and divine love are the primary experiences. This knowledge transforms how we understand not just comas, but life, death, and our infinite spiritual potential. Whether you're facing medical challenges, supporting a loved one, or simply seeking spiritual growth, remember that consciousness is your eternal essence. Physical circumstances may change, but your awareness, your soul, your connection to divine intelligence remains constant and expansive. If this information has opened your understanding of consciousness and spirituality, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Share this video with anyone who needs hope about healing, consciousness, or the spiritual dimensions of medical challenges. Leave a comment about your own experiences with expanded awareness or spiritual healing. But there's something even more incredible that Cayce discovered about comas that could change your life right now. He revealed that people in comas often become spiritual transmitters, sending healing energy and messages to their loved ones through dreams and intuitive insights. In one documented case from the 1940s, a mother whose daughter was in a coma began receiving detailed information through dreams about natural remedies that ultimately helped other family members heal from various ailments. This isn't imagination. This is documented spiritual communication. The daughter's consciousness, free from physical limitations, was accessing healing knowledge from higher dimensions and transmitting it to her mother's subconscious mind. When the daughter finally awakened 6 months later, she confirmed the accuracy of every remedy her mother had dreamed about. Here's what this reveals about your own psychic abilities. Cayce taught that family members of coma patients often experience their strongest psychic awakenings during these difficult times. The intense emotional connection combined with the patient's expanded consciousness creates what he called spiritual bridges, direct soul-to-soul communication that bypasses normal physical limitations. If you've ever had a loved one in a coma, you might have experienced this yourself. Sudden knowing about their condition, dreams that felt more real than waking life, or unexplained feelings of peace during the most difficult moments. According to Cayce's readings, these weren't coincidences. They were actual communication from your loved one's traveling consciousness. But here's the part that will shock you about timing and spiritual missions. In his most detailed readings about comas, Cayce revealed that some souls specifically choose these experiences before incarnating. They volunteer to serve as consciousness pioneers, exploring spiritual dimensions and bringing back knowledge for humanity's evolution. These aren't random medical events, they're planned spiritual missions. This explains why certain coma cases become catalysts for massive spiritual awakening in families and communities. The person in the coma is actually serving as a spiritual teacher, demonstrating the reality of consciousness beyond physical form and opening hearts to deeper spiritual understanding. In archived records from Virginia Beach, there's documentation of a young man whose coma lasted 8 months. During this time, his family and medical staff began experiencing profound spiritual phenomena. Nurses reported sensing angelic presences, family members had prophetic dreams, and even skeptical doctors acknowledged unexplainable moments of healing and peace in his hospital room. When he awakened, the young man described serving as what he called a spiritual lighthouse. His consciousness had been deliberately broadcasting higher frequency energy to help raise the spiritual vibration of everyone around him. His coma wasn't a medical crisis, it was a spiritual service mission. Now here's something that could transform your understanding of your own life purpose. Cayce explained that witnessing or supporting someone through a coma experience is itself a spiritual initiation. The emotional intensity and forced confrontation with mortality awakens dormant spiritual abilities and deeper connection to divine guidance. Many people report that supporting a loved one through a coma became their introduction to prayer, meditation, energy healing, or psychic development. This is why these experiences, as difficult as they are, often become turning points for entire families' spiritual evolution. The person in the coma is teaching through their journey, showing loved ones that consciousness is eternal, that communication transcends physical form, and that divine love is the underlying reality of all existence. But there's a warning Cayce gave that everyone needs to understand. Not all spiritual communication during comas is from the highest sources. Just as conscious people can encounter both positive and negative influences, consciousness traveling during comas can sometimes connect with lower spiritual entities or confused souls. This is why Cayce emphasized the importance of prayer, protection, and spiritual discernment when supporting someone in a coma. Families should surround their loved ones with positive energy, uplifting music, prayers from their spiritual tradition, and clear intention for the highest good. This creates what Cayce called a spiritual sanctuary that attracts beneficial spiritual guides and protects against negative influences during the soul's journey. In one case, that disturbed even Cayce's closest associates. A woman in a coma was being influenced by what he described as earthbound spirits, trying to prevent her return to physical life. Through concentrated prayer and spiritual intervention, her family was able to clear these influences and guide her consciousness back to healing dimensions. She awakened 2 weeks later with no memory of the dark period, but clear recollection of beautiful spiritual experiences. Here's what makes this knowledge absolutely crucial for anyone facing medical challenges today. Understanding comas as spiritual journeys rather than just medical conditions completely changes how we approach healing. Instead of focusing only on physical interventions, we can support the spiritual aspects of recovery through prayer, meditation, energy work, and conscious communication with the traveling soul. Cayce taught specific techniques for this spiritual support. Play music that the person loved, read spiritual texts aloud, share positive memories, and express love freely. Most importantly, speak directly to their soul, acknowledging that they can hear and understand on a spiritual level, even when physically unresponsive. In documented cases, people who received this kind of spiritual support during comas consistently showed better outcomes and more profound spiritual growth when they returned to consciousness. The combination of medical care and spiritual support creates optimal conditions for both physical healing and soul development. But here's the most life-changing revelation about what comas teach us about death itself. Cayce's readings revealed that the consciousness journey during a coma is essentially a preview of what happens during the death transition. Souls travel through similar spiritual dimensions, encounter the same types of spiritual guides, and face similar choices about their continued evolution. The difference is that during comas, they retain the option to return to physical life. This knowledge removes the fear from death and transforms it into understanding of continued spiritual existence. People who have supported loved ones through comas often report losing their fear of death entirely, because they've witnessed firsthand that consciousness continues and even expands beyond physical limitations. The wisdom Edgar Cayce accessed through the Akashic records is available to all of us. These teachings about consciousness during comas reveal our infinite spiritual nature, our eternal connection to divine love, and the incredible journey every soul is on. Whether facing medical challenges, supporting loved ones, or simply seeking deeper spiritual understanding, remember that consciousness is your true eternal essence, and every experience, including the most challenging ones, serves your soul's highest evolution and spiritual awakening. They say you wake up but your body refuses to move. You try to scream but no sound comes out. Your eyes are open but what you see doesn't feel like the world you know. Some call it sleep paralysis. Others call it a demonic presence sitting on your chest. But Edgar Cayce, known as the Sleeping Prophet, described something deeper, something that bridges science and the spirit. He said that in those moments, the soul is not fully back in the body. Between sleep and wakefulness, you are suspended between two dimensions, the physical and the spiritual, and what you feel pressing upon you is not always a nightmare. Sometimes it's your own spirit struggling to return to the flesh. Other times, it's something else trying to make contact. As you watch this video, stay until the end, because what Cayce revealed about these mysterious awakenings might forever change how you see your nights, your dreams, and your soul. Comment below if you've ever experienced waking up paralyzed, unable to move or speak yet completely aware. Your story might help someone understand what has been haunting them for years. When the night falls and silence wraps around your room, your mind begins to drift between worlds. Your body sinks into stillness, yet your consciousness floats somewhere else, suspended in a space where reality bends. Then suddenly, you awaken. But you can't move. You can't even whisper. Your body is frozen, your breath heavy, and a strange presence seems to hover in the dark. Many call it sleep paralysis. Science explains it as the brain waking before the body does. But Edgar Cayce saw beyond the surface. In his readings, he described the human soul as something that travels when we sleep, leaving the physical body to explore higher realms of existence. And when the soul returns too abruptly, or when fear grips the body, this separation can be felt as paralysis. You are awake but not entirely here. Your spirit is halfway between heaven and earth. Cayce said that during sleep, the soul often leaves through what he called the silver cord, a spiritual connection linking the physical and the eternal. In that state, the body is still but the soul is active, learning, observing, even meeting with other souls. It's a sacred process, invisible but real. When people wake too fast before the spirit fully re-enters, their consciousness struggles. That's when they feel trapped inside their own body. He explained that this phenomenon isn't evil by itself, but fear and spiritual confusion can attract negative energies. Those vibrations feed off panic. In moments like that, your fear becomes a doorway, and what you perceive as a dark presence might be the echo of your own spiritual imbalance. According to Cayce, every night, the soul renews itself through divine contact. But when your life is disconnected from faith, prayer, and peace, the return of your spirit to the body becomes chaotic. You wake in a storm of fear rather than in the calm of divine harmony. He warned that this paralysis can be a sign, not of demonic control, but of spiritual neglect. A signal that your soul is calling you back to the awareness of God's presence. When the physical and spiritual bodies fall out of rhythm, the soul trembles at the border of two realities. It is not death. It is a reminder of how fragile the bridge between heaven and earth truly is. So when you wake in the dark, unable to move, Cayce would tell you, do not fight it. Do not scream in terror. Breathe and remember that your soul is still connected. Whisper a prayer. Call upon the name of Jesus. The fear will fade and peace will return. The moment you invoke the divine, the vibration shifts, because darkness cannot stand in the presence of light. What paralyzes you is not the night, but the lack of awareness that you are never alone. You are always held by the Spirit of God, even when your body lies frozen. If you've ever experienced this silent terror, take a moment to like this video and share your experience in the comments. Many people live in fear of something that is actually a profound spiritual event. Your voice can help others find understanding and faith instead of panic. And don't forget to subscribe. We're going deep into Cayce's lost teachings about dreams, the soul, and the thin veil between worlds. Cayce believed that what science calls sleep paralysis is often a moment when the soul is closer to God than at any other time during the night. Because when the physical senses are muted and the body is still, the spirit is more sensitive to the unseen. He said that each of us is more than flesh. We are energy, vibration, and consciousness moving through a divine current. And sometimes that current is interrupted by fear, guilt, or the weight of our daily struggles. When that happens, the soul's journey becomes turbulent. We wake in confusion, trapped between planes, feeling the dense heaviness of the physical while still perceiving the subtle vibrations of the spiritual. In those few seconds of paralysis, you are touching eternity. You are aware not only of your body, but also of the invisible world that always surrounds it. That's why some people report seeing shadows, hearing voices, or feeling a presence near them. Cayce explained that the moment between waking and sleep is the most sensitive doorway of the mind. The subconscious is open, the conscious mind is alert, and both worlds overlap. What you perceive in those seconds might be your own fears taking shape, but it might also be the residue of spiritual encounters that your conscious mind can't yet process. Cayce warned that obsession with these experiences can attract energies of the same vibration. If you expect darkness, you will find it. But if you fill your nights with prayer and gratitude, your spirit aligns with higher realms, and the fear dissolves like mist before the sun. He also said that people who practice meditation before sleep create harmony between the soul and the body. This harmony prevents the shock of sudden re-entry that causes paralysis. When you fall asleep in peace, your spirit travels freely and returns smoothly. The experience of waking becomes sacred rather than terrifying. Cayce taught that the key to controlling these moments lies in vibration, in what you carry within your heart. Because every emotion is energy, and every thought shapes the reality around you. Fear tightens the cord between worlds, while faith releases it. Those who cultivate faith find that even when they can't move, they are calm. They feel surrounded by light instead of trapped in darkness. Think about it. Maybe those nights weren't meant to frighten you. Maybe they were meant to wake you spiritually, to remind you that life doesn't end when your body rests, that the soul keeps moving, learning, connecting with realms beyond what the eyes can see. Cayce said that these experiences are not punishments, but invitations, calls to remember your divine origin. Every time you return from sleep, you are returning from a spiritual journey. What you bring back depends on the state of your heart. If you sleep with bitterness, you wake with nightmares. If you rest in prayer, you wake in peace. The difference between terror and revelation is not in the event itself, but in your vibration when it happens. Cayce once said that fear is the absence of faith in motion. When you awaken in paralysis, your mind reacts with panic because it doesn't understand what your spirit already knows. The soul is returning from a dimension where time and matter don't exist. It's passing through the same subtle layers that connect you to God. In that instant, fear acts like a curtain blocking the light. But the moment you remember who you truly are, a divine being clothed in flesh, the darkness loses power. Cayce taught that the human body is a temple and the spirit is its high priest. When that harmony is disturbed, even for seconds, the body becomes a cage instead of a vessel. That's why prayer before sleep is not superstition, it's preparation. It aligns the mind, body and soul so that the journey through the night is safe and the return is gentle. He explained that angels and spiritual guides are constantly near us, especially when we sleep. They help the soul remember its divine purpose. But when we carry bitterness or hatred into the night, those higher influences cannot reach us easily. Negative emotions create a spiritual fog, and in that fog we become aware only of the shadows of our own making. The dark presence people often feel during paralysis, Cayce said, is rarely an outside demon. It is the magnified reflection of our own inner chaos. When you feel trapped and terrified, you're confronting the energy you have not yet forgiven. Forgiveness, he said, is light. It burns away the dense vibrations that hold you down. That's why invoking the name of Jesus brings instant relief, not because it magically removes the fear, but because it reminds the soul of its divine authority. Cayce's readings often return to one central idea: consciousness survives every experience. Even in moments that feel like death, when the body is frozen, when time seems to stop, awareness continues. That is proof that you are not your body. You are the consciousness observing it. And the more you live with that awareness, the less power fear will have over you. What paralyzes most people is not the event, but the illusion of separation. You are never outside the reach of the divine. Even in the stillest, darkest moment, the Spirit of God breathes through you. The paralysis is not punishment. It's an invitation to awaken. Every time you close your eyes, your soul rehearses the journey it will one day take at death, leaving the body, exploring the spiritual plane, and then returning. The difference is that now you wake up again. These small rehearsals are meant to teach you that there is nothing to fear when the moment of real transition comes. Cayce said that understanding the nature of sleep and dreams prepares the soul for eternity. So when you find yourself unable to move, remember this: you are being shown, through experience, that the soul is immortal. The fear you feel is the resistance of the ego, not the truth of your spirit. Cayce also warned that those who mock or deny the spiritual side of life often face the most disturbing experiences during sleep, not as punishment, but as an inevitable awakening. The soul cannot live forever in denial of its own nature. The more a person clings to material explanations alone, the more violent the shock becomes when the spiritual reality breaks through. That's why some people wake in terror while others wake in peace. It's not random, it's resonance. Cayce said that our nightly experiences reflect the condition of our inner world. If you fill your mind with chaos, that chaos follows you into the spiritual plane. If you cultivate calmness, prayer, and gratitude, your nights become luminous, filled with presence instead of panic. He encouraged people to pray before sleeping, not as a ritual of fear, but as an act of alignment, because prayer tunes the soul to the frequency of God's peace. When that happens, even if your body awakens before your spirit is fully anchored, you feel only serenity. Many of Cayce's followers shared that when they prayed before bed, even experiences of paralysis became moments of divine contact. They reported feeling a warm light surrounding them, a presence that comforted instead of frightened. The body still couldn't move, but the fear was gone. Cayce said that was the Christ vibration, the awareness that perfect love casts out all fear. If you look closely, you'll notice a pattern. Everything in these experiences points back to one truth: your spirit is more real than your body. Sleep paralysis, dreams, even visions, they are all windows through which eternity looks at you. Cayce wanted people to stop running from these moments and start learning from them. He said, fear closes the door, faith opens it. When you wake paralyzed, instead of begging for it to end, whisper within your mind, "Thy will be done." That phrase aligns your energy with God's flow, breaking the hold of darkness instantly. What feels like terror becomes worship. What felt like a nightmare becomes revelation. Take this seriously. Every time you rise from sleep, you are being given another chance to remember your divine nature. The separation between the physical and the spiritual is not a wall, it's a veil, thin as breath. Sleep paralysis is just a moment when that veil is lifted too soon. Instead of seeing it as something to fear, see it as a teacher. It shows you how fragile your attachment to the material really is, and how powerful the unseen truly remains. If you've ever felt trapped between worlds, you have tasted what it means to be eternal. Cayce reminded people that God never abandons the soul in darkness. What we call night terrors are often cries from the soul asking to be remembered. He taught that when you invite God into your nights, every experience, even the frightening ones, becomes holy. Those moments when you wake frozen in silence can become encounters with grace if you let faith replace fear. He said the key is preparation. How you end your day determines how your spirit begins its journey. Go to sleep in anger, and you'll travel through shadows. Go to sleep in gratitude, and you'll rise surrounded by light. The soul responds to vibration more than words, and the vibration of love always finds its way back to God. In one of his readings, Cayce was asked why some people see dark figures during these episodes. He explained that the human mind, when half awake, half asleep, interprets energy as form. Negative thought patterns can shape that energy into fearful images. But he also said that if, in that moment, a person prays, the image fades. The light of prayer transforms perception. The presence you thought was evil becomes peace. This isn't fantasy, it's spiritual law. Darkness has no substance of its own. It exists only where light is absent. So when you remember the divine, you restore the balance instantly. Your consciousness creates the atmosphere around you, even in paralysis. The question isn't, why can't I move? But, what is my soul trying to show me? Cayce urged people to see sleep, not as a void, but as sacred communion. Every night, the soul visits dimensions that the waking mind cannot grasp. We learn, we heal, we receive impressions that later surface as intuition or sudden understanding. He said that dreams are messages from the higher self, the part of us that remains aware of God. Sleep paralysis, then, is not a curse, but a reminder that we are spiritual beings temporarily confined to flesh. When you awaken and cannot move, it's your soul whispering, "You are more than this body." That's not something to fear. That's the deepest truth of existence. If these words resonate with you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Help us spread Cayce's wisdom to those who are searching for answers in the dark. Share your story in the comments. Your testimony could bring light to someone still afraid of the night. Together, we can turn fear into faith, paralysis into prayer, and sleepless nights into moments of divine connection. Because as Cayce said, the spirit is never bound. Only the mind believes it is. When dawn comes, most people forget the mystery that just passed. They rush into their routines, never realizing that, in the stillness of the night, they brushed against eternity. Cayce said that if we learned to remember what our souls do while the body sleeps, humanity would lose its fear of death forever. Because we would know that consciousness doesn't end, it expands. The paralysis we dread is only the body's reminder that something sacred just occurred. It's a threshold moment when heaven touches earth and the eternal self returns home for another day. But only those who are spiritually awake recognize it for what it is. He warned that as the world grows louder, people will become more spiritually deaf. More will experience these disturbances at night because their souls are starving for silence, for God, for meaning. Our modern lives are filled with noise, screens, and distraction. The soul tries to speak, but we no longer listen, so it finds moments like these, when the body is frozen and the world is quiet, to remind us that the unseen still exists. What you feel in that immovable moment is not punishment, it's a call. A divine whisper saying, "Return to me." When you surrender to that, the fear dissolves, and the peace of Christ fills the room like light breaking through thick curtains. So tonight, before you close your eyes, remember this: you are not falling into darkness, you are returning to the source. Breathe deeply, forgive those who hurt you, and speak to God as to a friend. Tell him you are ready to see with new eyes. Because when your soul travels, it carries the fragrance of your faith, and when it returns, it brings that same fragrance back into your waking life. That's how true transformation happens, not through fear, but through remembrance. When you awaken in stillness, unable to move, do not fight it. Let it be holy. Let it remind you that your spirit is eternal, your body is temporary, and your faith is the bridge between them. every soul will one day make that journey permanently, leaving the body behind. But Cayce's message was clear. If you walk with God now, even death will feel like waking from a dream. So the next time you find yourself paralyzed in the night, don't panic. Pray. Whisper his name. Because in that moment, heaven is closer than you think. If this message touched your heart, like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs peace tonight. And tell us in the comments, have you ever experienced this strange awakening between worlds? I'll read your story and mark it with a heart, because every testimony here helps another soul find faith in the dark. Remember, even in paralysis the Spirit moves. Even in silence God speaks. Edgar Cayce told a woman in Virginia Beach that the recurring snake in her dreams wasn't just a nightmare. It was her own Kundalini energy desperately trying to awaken her psychic abilities. 3 months later, she developed healing powers so strong that doctors couldn't explain how she cured her daughter's chronic illness just by laying hands on her. But here's what's even more shocking about this documented case from the 1930s. That same woman returned to Cayce terrified because the snake dreams had changed. Now the serpent was speaking to her, revealing past life memories that proved to be historically accurate when researched. Cayce's reading revealed something that would revolutionize how we understand the spiritual significance of snake symbolism in dreams. In the next 25 minutes, I'll reveal the 7 distinct types of snake dreams that Cayce identified in his readings, including the one that signals you're about to experience a major spiritual breakthrough, the disturbing meaning behind dreams where the snake attacks you, and the incredibly rare serpent dream that indicates you're being prepared for prophetic abilities. Make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell, because what you're about to discover could completely change how you interpret your own dreams and unlock spiritual abilities you never knew you possessed. The woman I mentioned wasn't unique. Throughout his 14,000 documented psychic readings spanning over 4 decades, Edgar Cayce encountered hundreds of people reporting snake dreams, and what he discovered about their meaning shocked even his own stenographers who recorded these sessions at his headquarters in Virginia Beach. But wait, before we dive into the 7 categories of snake dreams Cayce identified, you need to understand what he discovered about the serpent as a spiritual symbol during his most profound trance states. In one of his most comprehensive readings from 1934, Cayce accessed what he called the Akashic Records. Think of it as a cosmic library containing every soul's journey through all of existence, and revealed that the serpent represents the most ancient symbol of wisdom and spiritual transformation known to humanity. Here's where it gets absolutely fascinating, and this will change everything you thought you knew about dream symbolism. Cayce explained that when a snake appears in your dreams, it's never random. Your subconscious mind is accessing archetypal knowledge from what he called the collective unconscious, connecting you to spiritual truths that have been recognized by mystery schools and spiritual traditions for thousands of years. The serpent, according to Cayce's most detailed readings on this subject, represents the Kundalini energy that lies dormant at the base of your spine. This is your spiritual life force, your connection to divine consciousness, and when it begins to awaken through meditation, prayer, or natural spiritual development, it often announces itself through increasingly vivid snake dreams. Now here's the first major revelation that will completely transform how you interpret these dreams, and I promise you've never heard this explained this way before. Cayce identified 7 distinct types of snake dreams, each with radically different meanings and spiritual implications. The first type, and this is documented in multiple readings from the late 1930s and verified in archived records at the Association for Research and Enlightenment, involves snakes that appear calm, beautiful, or even helpful in the dream. In a reading that absolutely amazed witnesses at the ARE headquarters in Virginia Beach, Cayce explained to a businessman from Norfolk that his recurring dream of a golden serpent with jeweled eyes guiding him through an ancient garden wasn't just symbolic, it was prophetic. The snake was literally showing him the path his soul needed to take for accelerated spiritual growth. But here's what made this case so extraordinary. Cayce told this man that the golden color of the serpent indicated his crown chakra was beginning to open, and the jeweled eyes represented the gift of spiritual sight that was developing within him. That businessman followed the specific guidance he received in subsequent readings, including daily meditation practices and dietary recommendations that Cayce claimed would support his Kundalini awakening. Within 8 months, he reported experiencing spontaneous healing abilities, prophetic dreams that proved accurate, and profound psychic insights that transformed not only his spiritual understanding, but his entire approach to business and relationships. The golden serpent Cayce revealed in follow-up sessions represented this man's higher self, preparing him for expanded consciousness and service to others through spiritual healing. But here's what's truly incredible about this first category of peaceful snake dreams, and this connects directly to what might be happening in your own dream life right now. When snakes appear as guides, protectors, or helpful presences in dreams, Cayce's readings consistently showed these individuals were entering what he called a period of accelerated soul development. The serpent was literally their own Kundalini energy, preparing to rise through their chakra system, awakening psychic abilities that had been dormant not just since birth, but potentially since previous incarnations. In documented cases from the ARE archives, people experiencing these peaceful serpent dreams reported remarkable synchronicities in their waking lives. They would meet spiritual teachers unexpectedly, discover books that contained exactly the information they needed for their development, or find themselves drawn to healing modalities they had never heard of before. The peaceful snake dream, according to Cayce's insights, was essentially your soul's way of announcing that you were ready for the next phase of your spiritual evolution. Now let me share the second type of snake dream that Cayce documented, and this is where things become significantly more intense and, frankly, unsettling for many people. In archived records from 1936, a woman from Richmond came to Cayce describing recurring nightmares where multiple snakes would chase her through dark corridors. She was terrified, barely sleeping, and her health was deteriorating from the psychological stress of these dreams. What Cayce revealed in his trance state about the meaning of these aggressive snake dreams shocked everyone present at that session, including his wife Gertrude, who often served as the conductor for his readings. These pursuing snake dreams, according to Cayce's reading, represented what he called internal spiritual warfare. The serpents weren't trying to harm her, they were showing her the intense battle between her lower nature, her ego-driven desires and fears, and her soul's desperate calling for spiritual evolution and higher consciousness. Here's the part that will absolutely give you chills when you understand the deeper spiritual mechanics at work. Cayce explained that when we actively resist our spiritual growth, when we cling to negative thought patterns, destructive relationships, or addictive behaviors that we know are harmful, the Kundalini energy becomes what he described as frustrated and agitated. This frustrated spiritual energy then appears in dreams as aggressive, threatening, or overwhelming serpent imagery, because it's literally trying to break through our conscious resistance to positive change. This particular woman, as Cayce revealed in her reading, had been systematically ignoring and dismissing her natural psychic abilities for years. She had experienced prophetic dreams, healing sensations in her hands when touching others, and strong intuitive insights about people's characters and motivations. But instead of exploring these gifts, she had convinced herself they were coincidences or imagination. The pursuing snakes in her dreams were her own life force, her spiritual essence, demanding that she finally pay attention to her soul's calling and stop denying her true nature. But here's what makes this case so remarkable and gives hope to anyone experiencing similar threatening snake dreams. Within 6 months of following Cayce's specific recommendations for daily meditation, dream work, and what he called attunement practices, this woman's nightmares completely transformed. The aggressive snakes became the peaceful, guiding serpents of the first category. More importantly, she developed extraordinary abilities for spiritual counseling and became known throughout the Virginia Beach area for her capacity to help others understand their own spiritual experiences and dreams. The transformation wasn't just in her dream life. Her entire existence shifted from fear-based living to purpose-driven spiritual service. But wait, there's a third type of snake dream that Cayce discovered, and this one reveals something so profound about reincarnation and the continuity of consciousness that it challenges everything most people believe about the nature of reality itself. The third category involves dreams where you become the snake, transform into a serpent, or somehow experience consciousness from the snake's perspective. In documented cases from the ARE, archives spanning from 1938 to 1943, Cayce revealed that these dreams indicate the dreamer is accessing actual memories from past incarnations. In one of his most detailed and verifiable readings from 1938, Cayce told a young man from Newport News that his recurring dream of transforming into a massive cobra wasn't symbolic at all. It was a precise memory from a past life in ancient Egypt, where he had been initiated into the highest levels of serpent wisdom as a temple priest in the mystery schools. The accuracy of these past life readings has been independently verified through historical and archaeological research. Specific details that Cayce provided about ancient Egyptian spiritual practices, temple locations, mystical traditions, and even architectural features have been confirmed by discoveries made decades after his death. This changes everything about how we understand consciousness, doesn't it? Your snake dreams might not be your mind creating symbolic imagery at all. They could be your soul accessing actual memories from its journey through multiple lifetimes of spiritual development. Here's what Cayce discovered about why these profound memories surface specifically through serpent symbolism. And this insight alone could revolutionize your entire understanding of dreams and consciousness. In his most comprehensive readings on reincarnation and soul memory, Cayce consistently revealed that the serpent represents what he called the continuity thread of consciousness between incarnations. It's the spiritual energy that connects all your lifetimes, carrying forward the wisdom, abilities, and evolutionary progress you've made across centuries or even millennia of existence. When you dream of becoming a snake or experiencing serpent consciousness, your soul is remembering its eternal nature and showing you glimpses of spiritual knowledge and abilities you've developed over multiple lifetimes. In archived testimonials from people who experienced these transformation snake dreams, many reported that, after working with Cayce's guidance, they developed skills and knowledge they had never studied in their current lifetime. One documented case involved a woman who began having dreams of being a healing serpent in what appeared to be ancient Greece. Following Cayce's recommendations for meditation and past life exploration, she spontaneously developed knowledge of herbal medicine and energy healing techniques that proved remarkably effective, despite having no formal training in these areas. The fourth type of snake dream that Cayce identified is perhaps the most mysterious and spiritually significant. These involve serpents that speak to you, offering specific guidance, warnings, or teachings. In a session that was recorded by multiple witnesses in 1940, Cayce explained to a woman from Baltimore that her dreams of a wise, ancient serpent speaking in what sounded like multiple languages simultaneously indicated she was being prepared for what he called prophetic service. The speaking serpent, according to Cayce's reading, represented direct communication from what he termed the higher forces, essentially elevated spiritual beings or consciousness that were preparing her to receive and transmit prophetic information for the benefit of others. This woman initially felt overwhelmed and somewhat frightened by this responsibility, but Cayce assured her that such dreams only come to souls who have prepared for this level of spiritual service through multiple incarnations of dedicated development. Within 2 years, she became known for remarkably accurate predictions about personal matters for individuals who sought her guidance, and her insights about broader social and economic trends proved uncannily accurate. The speaking serpent dreams, Cayce revealed, were essentially a form of advanced spiritual communication, indicating that the dreamer's consciousness had developed to the point where they could receive direct guidance from higher dimensions of reality. Here's where this becomes personally relevant for anyone watching this video right now. Cayce's readings revealed that we are currently living in what he called an age of spiritual awakening, where more people than ever before in human history are experiencing these advanced types of snake dreams. The fifth category of serpent dreams that Cayce documented involves multiple snakes appearing together, often in organized patterns or formations. These dreams, according to his readings, indicate that the dreamer is being prepared to work with what he called group consciousness or collective spiritual energy. In a particularly fascinating case from 1939, a man reported dreams of hundreds of snakes moving in perfect harmony, creating intricate geometric patterns. Cayce's reading revealed that this individual was being prepared to become a spiritual teacher who would help groups of people understand and develop their psychic abilities together. The geometric patterns created by the dream serpents, Cayce explained, represented the mathematical precision with which spiritual energy operates when groups of people align their consciousness for healing, prayer, or spiritual development. This man went on to establish one of the most successful meditation and spiritual development groups in the southeastern United States, helping hundreds of people awaken their own psychic abilities through group practices. The sixth type of snake dream involves serpents in water, swimming, emerging from lakes or rivers, or moving fluidly through aquatic environments. Cayce's readings consistently revealed that water-based serpent dreams indicate the dreamer is learning to work with emotional and psychic energies at very deep levels. In documented sessions from the early 1940s, Cayce explained that water represents the unconscious mind and emotional body, while the serpent represents spiritual transformation. When these symbols combine in dreams, it indicates the person is developing what he called emotional mastery, the ability to maintain spiritual equilibrium even when dealing with intense emotional situations or psychic impressions from others. People experiencing these water serpent dreams, according to archived testimonials, often developed remarkable abilities for emotional healing, both for themselves and others. They reported being able to sense and help resolve emotional blockages that were causing physical illness or psychological distress. The seventh and final category of snake dreams that Cayce identified is perhaps the rarest and most spiritually advanced. These involve serpents with wings or serpents that fly, representing what Cayce called the perfect integration of earth wisdom and heavenly consciousness. In a reading from 1942 that left witnesses in absolute awe, Cayce told a woman that her dreams of flying serpents indicated she was developing what he termed cosmic consciousness, an awareness that transcended individual identity and connected directly with universal spiritual principles. These winged serpent dreams, according to Cayce's insights, only come to individuals who have achieved a rare level of spiritual development where they can serve as bridges between earthly human consciousness and divine spiritual realms. Now here's where all of this becomes immediately applicable to your own spiritual development and dream life. Cayce's readings revealed specific, practical techniques for working with snake dreams to accelerate your spiritual growth and awaken dormant psychic abilities. First, and this is documented in dozens of sessions from his later years, Cayce consistently recommended keeping what he called a serpent dream journal, a record dedicated specifically to snake-related dreams and the spiritual insights they provide. He explained that the subconscious mind operates on patterns of attention and recognition. When you consciously focus on and record your serpent dreams, you're essentially telling your deeper mind that you're ready to receive increasingly clear and detailed spiritual guidance through this symbolic language. People who followed this practice reported that their snake dreams became more frequent, more vivid, and increasingly meaningful as sources of spiritual direction. Second, and this technique has produced remarkable results for thousands of people over the decades, Cayce recommended what he called dream dialogue meditation. Immediately upon waking from a snake dream, before getting out of bed or engaging with any external stimuli, you should enter a meditative state and visualize yourself back in the dream environment. Then consciously engage in dialogue with the dream serpent, asking it directly what spiritual lesson, guidance, or information it wants to communicate. In archived testimonials from people who practiced this technique consistently, many reported receiving profound spiritual insights, healing guidance for themselves and others, and even prophetic information that proved accurate. The key, according to Cayce's instructions, is approaching the dream serpent with respect and genuine desire for spiritual understanding rather than fear or casual curiosity. Third, Cayce revealed an advanced technique for those who wanted to deepen their connection with serpent wisdom. He recommended daily meditation practices that specifically invoke what he called the serpent consciousness, essentially meditation designed to awaken and work consciously with Kundalini energy. This practice, he warned, should only be undertaken by individuals who were sincerely committed to spiritual development and personal transformation, as awakening Kundalini energy creates profound changes in consciousness that must be integrated carefully. People who followed Cayce's guidance for serpent consciousness meditation reported accelerated psychic development, spontaneous healing abilities, and deep spiritual insights that transformed their understanding of reality. But here's something that connects directly to what's happening in our world today, and this might be the most important insight in this entire discussion. Cayce's readings revealed that during periods of global spiritual awakening, like what many spiritual teachers and researchers believe we're experiencing right now, snake dreams become significantly more common because humanity's collective consciousness is rising to higher levels of spiritual awareness. The serpent energy isn't just personal, it's planetary. As more people awaken spiritually, the ancient wisdom traditions represented by serpent symbolism become more accessible to everyone through dreams, meditation, and spontaneous spiritual experiences. This means your snake dreams might be part of something much larger than your individual spiritual journey. You could be receiving guidance not just for your own development, but as part of humanity's collective evolution toward what Cayce called the new age of spiritual understanding. In his most prophetic readings about the future of human consciousness, Cayce consistently emphasized that individuals who learn to work consciously with serpent energy through dreams and meditation would become what he called bridge souls, people who help others transition from old paradigm thinking to new spiritual awareness. Here's what makes this even more relevant and exciting for spiritual seekers today. Modern research into consciousness, quantum physics, and what scientists call non-local awareness is beginning to validate what Cayce revealed about the interconnected nature of mind and reality decades before science had the tools to explore these concepts. The serpent wisdom that appears in your dreams connects you to this larger understanding of consciousness as a fundamental creative force in the universe, not just a byproduct of brain activity. Recent studies in neuroscience have even identified what researchers call serpentine neural pathways that activate during deep meditative states and profound spiritual experiences, essentially validating Cayce's insights about the physiological reality of Kundalini awakening. Let me share several final documented cases that will show you the full potential of understanding and working with snake dreams through Cayce's profound insights. In 1941, a woman came to Cayce reporting that her snake dreams had evolved into elaborate visions where serpents were teaching her specific healing techniques, showing her how to use visualization, energy direction, and what appeared to be sacred geometric patterns for helping others recover from illness and emotional trauma. Initially skeptical of these dream teachings, she decided to cautiously test what she was learning with friends and family members who had various health issues, using the exact visualization techniques and energy healing methods that the dream serpents had demonstrated. The results, documented in detailed letters archived at ARE, were absolutely extraordinary. Chronic conditions that had resisted medical treatment showed marked improvement. Long-standing emotional traumas resolved rapidly, and several people experienced what they could only describe as miraculous recovery from serious illnesses. This woman became one of the early pioneers of what we now recognize as energy healing and therapeutic visualization, all because she learned to trust and work with the serpent wisdom appearing in her dreams. Another remarkable case from 1943 involved a man who began experiencing dreams where he was swimming underwater with massive luminous serpents that seemed to be made of pure light energy. These serpents would wrap around him in spiraling patterns while communicating complex information about the nature of consciousness, healing, and spiritual evolution. Following Cayce's guidance for working with these visions, this man developed extraordinary abilities for what he called soul reading, the capacity to perceive and understand the spiritual challenges and evolutionary needs of individuals just by being in their presence. He established a spiritual counseling practice that helped hundreds of people understand their life purpose, resolve karmic patterns from past lives, and develop their own psychic abilities. Perhaps most significantly, in 1944, a woman reported dreams where serpents were showing her detailed visions of future events, including personal developments in her family's life and broader social changes that wouldn't manifest for months or even years. Cayce's reading revealed that she was developing what he called prophetic serpent consciousness, the ability to access information about probable future timelines through her connection with universal spiritual awareness. Her predictions, carefully documented by family members and friends, proved remarkably accurate, including specific details about the end of World War II, post-war economic developments, and even personal events in the lives of people she had never met. The profound truth that Edgar Cayce revealed through his thousands of readings is that snake dreams aren't mysterious, frightening, or random experiences. They're sacred invitations to remember your spiritual nature and access wisdom that transcends ordinary human consciousness. Whether your serpent dreams represent awakening Kundalini energy, spiritual challenges you're ready to overcome, memories from past lifetimes, preparation for prophetic abilities, or direct communication with higher spiritual consciousness, they're always pointing you toward greater spiritual understanding, expanded awareness, and purposeful service to others. The ancient serpent wisdom that Cayce accessed in his remarkable trance states is still completely available to you right now through your dreams, meditation practices, and sincere spiritual seeking. Every snake that appears in your dreams is essentially a messenger from your own higher self, your soul's intelligence calling you to embrace the profound spiritual being you've always been and step into the expanded consciousness that represents your true nature and highest potential. If you found these revelations about snake dreams as transformative as I did when researching Cayce's documented readings and archived cases, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. I'll be sharing more profound insights from Edgar Cayce's extraordinary work that can revolutionize your understanding of consciousness, dreams, spiritual development, and your soul's journey through multiple lifetimes. Drop a comment below sharing any snake dreams you've experienced. You might be amazed by the spiritual significance they hold when viewed through Cayce's wisdom and the experiences of the hundreds of people who worked with him. And please share this video with anyone in your life who's interested in dreams, spirituality, consciousness research, or Edgar Cayce's remarkable legacy of spiritual insight. This ancient serpent wisdom could be exactly what someone needs to understand their own spiritual journey and unlock abilities they never knew they possessed. Remember, the serpent in your dreams isn't something to fear or dismiss. It's your soul's way of calling you home to your true spiritual nature, your connection with universal consciousness, and your role in humanity's collective awakening to higher awareness. Edgar Cayce showed us that these dreams are precious gifts, not warnings or random neural activity, but profound invitations to embrace the magnificent spiritual being you've always been and step boldly into the expanded consciousness that represents your highest potential and greatest service to the world. The serpent wisdom is calling to you right now. The question is, are you ready to answer?